Ah man, here we go. We're live again. Yep, I'm back for seconds. So today we're going to, first we're gonna review some stuff from yesterday because yesterday flopped so badly towards the end, and then we're gonna go ahead and go over more stuff. I could also probably do better in the order of how we did things. Alright, so first, what I do is go into the audio, the game database, system, and then turn all of these to 45. Or at least a volume that would be considered decent if the player wanted to have the game at max volume, but not so loud that if you want to add your own resources or make resources that it's not gonna be able to match up with the loudness of RPG Maker's sounds. Next was changing the spelling or the grammar or wording or whatever in terms. Let's see, so an escape failure, or is it... Oh, here it is. Originally, it says by default. However, it was unable to escape. And you want it to have they were unable to escape because it's referring to the player trying to escape a battle. So I don't know how that got into this, but yeah, that's a mistake that's in all the RPG Maker engines by default. And next is removing the party members. So by default, you're gonna have a starting party of multiple of like 4 characters, 4 actors for some reason. I don't know who wants that, but it'll make it easier in testing to delete all of that, especially. And I personally don't want to have a starting party of 4 actors in a game. I don't think any, even RPG Maker games that I've seen, have a starting party of 4 characters. Hi, Peanuts. Alright, so next, let's see. Screen height and width. We go to System 2, Advanced Settings, change the width and the height. Because if you don't do that first thing, you start adding visual stuff, it's gonna be annoying to like fix things visually later in. You just do that first before you do other stuff that are visual things. And then once you do change that, you want the map to also be fully visible. Let's see, so if the screen height is 1080 and the width is 720, at least 11 tiles should be added on the left and right sides, and 7 tiles on the top and bottom sides if you don't want to have the camera like stopping at the edges. So let's also show what that would look like for those tiles that are like that should be extra inaccessible tiles. So as you can see, we should make this wider. So that gives the player a good amount of space to walk around without the camera reaching the edges of the map. Then next is customizing the touch control related settings for PC players. Because personally, I hate people that use phones for video games, but uh, I know that's a biased opinion, so we also have settings in here to make it so that here's an enhanced touch UI button. So you have the option to make it user-defined for how the menu shows up. You can make it uh, always displayed, which is pointless because that's how it is by default for some reason. Then you have it user-defined, where you can have options in the option menu. So you can have the player decide not to have it shown. And my personal favorites, wait, never. And show button by default set to false. So that takes care of the button at the top right that shows up for opening the menu. And the next thing you want to change is, or have, is a default event and common event for coordinates. So for that, you would have, that's what this thing here is. This is an event that sets auto run here at the trigger, and it turns on this switch that's labeled as default on. For now, you can ignore all of this stuff that I had there. So yours would just look like if you're following along, which nobody, of course, is, but I'm sure people, you can, like, I'm sure people will be able to watch this in a. Wait, this isn't being recorded on YouTube, is it? Well, it doesn't matter. So. Going by where, we've followed so far, ignoring the stuff that I've already added, we would have self switch A on, and then this page here where it has self switch, where it's active is if self switch A is on. The words to the right take priority, and if self switch A is on, of course, gonna look at this page where the trigger is action command and there's nothing in the contents. So that means if it's being run, the contents will play once, which is nothing, and then it won't have an infinite loop if you have it like set to auto run or parallel. So it's really just that's how you pretty much kill the event. Okay, so next, let's see. All right. So once that default switch is on, the purpose of that default switch is to have a switch that's on from the beginning of the game. And that causes things to happen for the game that, like, lets you set condition. That's why I have this common event warn that's titled, labeled as always on, with switch default. And what this does here, the first thing you want to do is get the player X, player Y, the map ID, and the region ID. And this, we're gonna ignore that, that's nothing. I have a switch named null, and that is for things like don't want to ever run. So usually for us notes, types of stuff like notes. So for this, you go to new. In the event commands, it's on the tab warn in game progression, and it's control variables. In there, you add a variable named player X, one named player Y, and then you have that set to game data character player map X, and then that's for player Y. I'm player X, of course. And then for player Y, you want to have it set to player map Y, of course. Then for this in game data, there's the option for other and map ID. Location info is you set the variable you want to be for, and then you go to info type. At the bottom of that drop down of info type is region ID. Then the location is at the bottom. You go to designation by character, and you set that to player. And for everything that's parallel processed, you want to have a wait frame so that way it's not infinitely constantly loading this information, because that'll like crash the game or cause it to run slower. Oh, you asked why I'm something. I'll ignore you though because you said to. Let's on to the next part. Let me see. Right, so next we have the pre-title events, which I didn't go into. Oh, you have a real question. What if you did 2 frames for the event loading? So you can do that, but it'll take twice as long for the player map X and player map Y to update. It probably won't be very noticeable or noticeable at all. In a lot of cases, an RPG Maker. But say for example, you put the number of wait frames to like 120. So then it updates every 2 seconds. Then you're really gonna notice like the amount of steps and the number of how long it takes for map X and map Y to update to where the player should be. And that'll probably cause things to stop working if you're actually using that for mechanics. Or at least it'll be out of sync with the player. Right, 1 frame is good enough for it to not be like crashing. It really just needs something in there to not have it like infinitely stuck trying to like not be able to process other things. But so I didn't go into pre-title event stuff last time. I have a plugin here somewhere. Oh yeah, skip title screen here. And what this does is it skips the title screen and goes to a specified map. And in the plugin parameters, you can set the map ID, the coordinates for the player, and the direction the player faces. So it's going to completely ignore the fact that I have the player set like anywhere here. But I can look at the bottom right of the menu. As what I mean is the window, and it'll show the player's coordinates right to the left of where it shows the text player. So this position the player's at is 1410. So if you set the coordinates 1410 in the plugin skip title screen, it'll put the player where you would expect him to be or her to be. So since the main goal right now is to make free title events instead of just skipping the title, we're gonna go ahead and copy the map and paste it. So now the player starts on a parallel map labeled map 1 again still, but we also have map 2 is the same. But we're gonna change map 1 to be empty without this character here, and we'll get rid of the event here on map 2, since the event is already on map 1 that sets all the default settings or turns on the switch, the default switch. And let's just make this. Let's change this map to be tile set outside, so that way we can have access to this transparent tile. And we'll get rid of all the land. And then with that, we can also change the background, of course. So let's make it like a universe background. Starry universe. And I'm putting this to the side for now. As you can see, I'm using null because that's my my way of putting notes or things that are not gonna play, not gonna process, because that switch is always off. And for safety measure, I'll put ignore below. So next, we can add a show choices. And we'll have the choices start game and load file. Now to start the game, what we'll do is put a new that's a movement in the event commands, and then set event location, or no, set move route. Oh, wait. No, it's transfer player is what we want to do. Then we'll transfer the player to map 2 where we have the stuff that we worked on earlier. And then for load file, we'll have to do something special. So since loading a file or opening the load scene, the load menu, isn't it's not in the game normally, we have to go to event commands, tab 3, advance, and script. Since the default game engine doesn't give us the option normally. And then in the script box, we put in scene manager.push, parentheses, theme, underscore load, parentheses, semicolon. And that will open up the option to load a file. So let's try it out real quick. Oh, and let's not forget initial volume control. So the volume control, we want to have all the volumes by default to start at 50, so that way the game isn't loud. And I also don't want the mouse to do stuff, so disable mouse with the disable mouse plugin. Which again doesn't entirely disable the mouse, lets you still use the mouse for like menus, but it doesn't let you have the character like move around and automatically find their way through mazes by clicking on the destination. So now let's look at the map. So as you can see, if I click load, it's gonna open up this file loading area. And then start game. Will bring us here. And we can still center this at least, but we're not gonna rely on the default menu design throughout the whole thing. We're just using this for now. Now there is one oversight in that when we close the load file menu, it brings us back to an empty screen. So we're gonna copy that and put it over here instead. And have this set to auto run instead too. So that way this menu always loads even after we close it. And we don't have to worry about putting a wait command because the processing is in the menu. And it's not gonna go to like the next step, the next event command, which doesn't exist because you're in the menu. So if I press back now, it should show the menu again. Let's see. Alright, so let's see what's next. Battle stuff. And control over the numbers. So first, let's actually next let's take a bit of a break and do something a bit more fun, I guess. Let's make a character. Oh, I'm gonna put music too. I think it isn't working because of OBS set stuff. Alright, let's make a character. I think a good order to do this thing is by starting with the eyes. Then moving on to eyebrows, mouth, nose, the rear hair parts, then the face, and then the rest of it. And we start by, before any of that, we'll just make them bald, and plain. Definitely want to put rear hair before you put the front hair. I think now's a good time to put front hair. This wasn't the best choice here. There's like no difference between these two in the sprites, aside from the actor image. The actor image has like some kind of weird hood on the top one. Let's get rid of this, like, school uniform kind of looking outfit. Gonna give her a black and pink design. And that's pretty cool. And we'll add glasses too. So once you have the image and sprites you want to use, you go to face image, save it, and oh no. You go to face image, then export, and then you save it in the folder it brings up, which is the faces folder. And you name it the character name. And she'll be named Maggie. So you do the same for face image and walking character. And damage character doesn't really matter. But we'll go ahead and export that too, I guess. And the battler one really doesn't matter if you're not using the side view battlers. And we're not going to be using that at all in this app. In these videos, in these streams. You can save settings, but even if I needed to go back to this, I could probably pretty easily put this back together again, so I'm not gonna worry about saving it. Whereas next, let's set up a player class, or let's go over the class actually. Well, I'm about to pick a sorcerer class anyway, so let's just make it in here. So the first thing we'll, if hit rate isn't at plus 100%, we'll put it to plus 100%. If evasion rate is plus 5, which it probably is by default, we'll put it to plus 0. So that way your player doesn't do any evasions, doesn't dodge any attacks. Crit rate, plus 0%. So you don't get crits. And the reason for that, again, is because we want to, for testing purposes especially, get rid of as much RNG as possible early on. I recommend adding RNG to your game, like, towards the end of it, if anything. Or at least a way to control RNG easily if you are gonna have it while testing. Then next, we'll set the parameter curves up at max HP and max MP to be a constant 100. along with agility. Then next, we'll have attack set to Tem. And defense is 0 because it can do defense with items, like, or equipment, I mean, like armor. And the reason we want it to be set to where it's gonna be like 100 HP regardless of what level the character is at is because that lets us control it other ways through events. It lets us also have the possibility of having characters like level up their HP through items, through player interactions, through NPC interactions and stuff. Maybe you do a quest and you get points that let you get more HP. Or you could have it to where if you get the amount of experience points that you need to level up, you can have the player choose what they want to level up. So it gives us a lot of other options if we don't rely on the built-in parameter curves tied to experience. But yeah, so then the player only levels up BP. Or something like that. Give the player options at least. But then we have luck. So luck affects the chance of a state being applied, like poison or paralysis. But it has, like, no effect. It doesn't really, do much. And it doesn't affect the chance of criticals happening either. Which some people might end up thinking it does. It doesn't do that. You can use it for custom damage formulas if you want to. But I don't recommend doing that. Especially if you're like still in the testing phase where you want as little RNG possible. So that can introduce some issues if you've used it for damage formulas. The luck boost is so small that you'd have like over 999 versus 1 luck to apparently even notice a difference. So I think it's best to put it to like 250 and have everything equally set to 250. So everyone, all the enemies, all the players, actors are all at equal luck. It's a pretty useless parameter. And no, it doesn't affect evasion either. It only affects these what is it? States like poison, confusion, stuff like that. So I think that pretty much is it for that section. Okay, so then we have the custom EXP plugin. So since in here by default the experience curve, you have less control of how your experience curve works than you do for the other parameters for whatever reason. You get four sliders, and those determine how many experience points you need to level up. So I made, or is it? Right here, there's custom EXP functions, and that lets you just set a custom function that determines how many experience points you need to level up. So you put in the class you want to be affected by the function, and then you put in the function. It's pretty simple. So right now, right half of the defaults function is x minus 1 multiplied by 100, where x represents the player's level. And that means that the player always needs 100 more experience points to level up. And that's basically how Paper Mario games work. At least the first two anyways. Where you need to get 100 more experience points to level up. Now there is an issue with that, with how a lot of RPGs work, and that in RPG Maker's case, it doesn't allow you to change how much experience an enemy gives based on a player's level, which means that the player doesn't need more and more experience to level up for each level, like exponentially, and they could just keep fighting enemies that are easy to get experience that gets them high amounts of experience points. But we'll come back to that issue later. Once I explain how to make enemies give experience that depends on the player's level instead. Now first we'll just see if this plugin is even working. Right there, and unlike yesterday, the plugin is working, so you can see current experience points is 0, and you need 100 to get to the next level. And every time you level up, you will need 100 more experience points to get to the next level. So next, let's see. Because we're using pre-title events or the skip title, the way it works, you see the actor in the title screen. You don't want to have the player in the title. So to avoid that, we'll have to remove the sprite, which is associated with the player's character in the database actors area. So we'll just make this blank. Let's also get rid of this weapon because that's gonna interfere with the a certain plugin later as well. We don't want the player to start off with any weapons. Not in the database area. Not by default here. If we want the player to start with weapons, then we'll do it through the event here. But we'll get to that in a bit too. Oh, you know what? We also have to name the character something else. I want to name... There we go, Maggie. And also we have her set to... We're gonna have her as a sorceress. We just finished putting the settings here. Oh, going back to this, we also want the we want to put all the equip stuff, like equip weapon and equip armor, to anything that we can imagine the character using. So there's no reason to limit this while testing. And this will allow you to also set through the engine what equipment you can automatically have equipped to the character through events. So like I'm gonna go into new and event commands. Change equipment. So I can set the equipment type to weapon, and then equipment item. And now all the every item, every weapon that has that's set to like staff or sword will show up for the for this character. So it's possible to make this here. Change equipment, Maggie, weapon, short sword, because she's able to carry swords or whatever staffs I can put there too. Otherwise, that won't work. If they're not able to carry swords or staffs, for example. And yes, you can just put any skill in the game. So you can go to skills, or is it... Yeah, so you add skills here. Now, yesterday I was also mentioning how this... I have this routed to a common event. That's named attack. And then through here, because it's going to common events, you're able to do pretty much anything. You can make this play a cutscene pretty much, or a bunch of text, show a video or something with the right plugins. Have the screen flash different colors or something. You could do whatever pretty much, since you can have it routed to a common event. Which is also what I was doing with the action commands too yesterday. But right, where was I? Oh, right. So the actor is invisible, doesn't have any sprites associated with her. Which means she's going to be invisible even when we start the game. So to avoid that, we want to go to Event Commands, Tab 3, or no, Tab 2, and wait. Okay, yeah, tab 3 in the event commands, and then system settings, then change actor images. Then we go to actor 2 and change the face to the face that we made earlier, and the character to the character sprites we made earlier. And that will cause the player to be visible with those, that image and sprites. That sprite sheet. So let's try that out now. So as you can see, the character doesn't show because they're invisible here in the title screen now. But if we start the game, they'll become visible as this, with this sprite sheet that we made. Alright, so now we can go into the other plugins that we have here, or look into the what I was saying about the skills. So let's go to map 2 and or is he? I can't remember which one Thomas is, so I'll just put this other actor that matches the sprite I already have here. So the next script we need is the actor tracker script that I made. And I made it actually show what it does now. So so I can see that it affects game variable 9. And I can set it to any other variable. Or if someone uses it, they can do that. And again, the reason that's important is that we can differentiate, so that way the game can differentiate between if an actor, which actor is attacking and which enemy is attacking, and if it's an enemy that's attacking. Unless we want to use like action commands when the enemy's attacking that let us attack the enemy again. So let's say if we don't differentiate, if we just have the action command play when the enemy attacks. Let's see what happens. Well, let me show you what happens, I should say. See, so let me attack her when she's attacking me, like... That's probably not the best bad example, but we do want to differentiate and be able to customize to have, like, say if the enemy attacks, we want to be able to, like, make a defend action command instead type of thing. And the next issue, of course, you probably noticed is the message that says there is no effect on message, and that gets rid of this. Or if we use the a skill that has a none type that misses. This is the only skill that actually has a type that says none. So now that action command only happens if Maggie attacks, as it's supposed to. And you know what? 10 is quite a bit, so let's actually set it to 1. For the damage that she does by default. Since we have added damage being done by weapons, if we want to have that. What do you mean by the basic attack is the only one? Yeah, that's the only one, really. And defend. Which, since you're not gonna actually use it to attack anyone, it doesn't matter because you're not gonna miss with it either, or like have it be like something that could cause an effect on an enemy because it's used on the user. There actually is one other skill that uses none. I don't know why there is just one other thing that uses none in here, but there is. It's somewhere in here. It's point shots and hunter skills. I don't know what they were thinking when they put only one other skill in a whole list of skills as skill type none. I think it might be a mistake too. Because if I go through all of these, we either have special or magic for the skill types. And of course, these ones were custom, so I'm not gonna count these because I made these reserved ones. So now that we're doing 1 damage, let's give the player a weapon. So before self-switch phase turns on, we have a short sword being put into the character's inventory. And then that short sword gets equipped by Maggie. And the short sword should be plus 8 damage. Making the total damage 9, as you can see. Can we beat her doing 9 damage while she does 10 damage to us? We can with action commands, if we actually get them right. We're getting dangerously close. Okay, we did it. Let me get rid of the music from the game engine. So next, I'll go ahead and add this NIJI or Niji equip slot score, which was messing up yesterday. And this lets us add whatever whatever kind of equipment we want to add to the player's options. So normally, the game won't let you, RPG Maker won't let you add, say, for example, 2 sword slots. And with this plugin, you can add any amounts of extra equipment that are like duplicates. Another good example is badges. In this case, you can have it to where you have to, you can't really have it exactly to how badges work, but you could definitely make a system that's very similar, where, say you have to equip 4 gemstones or something to use some special ability when you have all of them equipped. I wonder what the deleted message was. Let's not worry about it. So next... we'll take this equipment slot core plugin command. We'll have it affect actor 2, which is the player's actor in this case. I have the player as actor 2 for some reason today. And we'll give them equip slot type worn, which is... okay, it's in database types. And its equipment types, the far right worn, which is weapon. It lets them equip a weapon. So now let's see if that works. And as you can see, we can equip a weapon now. And this automatically equipped because I had it set to automatically equip in the events. And if you don't have the that plugin, you automatically have weapon, shield, head, body, and accessory. And you can't really get rid of that. And it's kind of redundant or just like unnecessary if you're not gonna actually use anything else, for example. It looks unprofessional. It looks bad if you have, like, settings that you're not using. So I definitely recommend that even if you're not like gonna add ridiculous stuff like dual wielding. So next, real quick, let's go over just setting the player's default speed and stuff. So I definitely prefer putting the player's default speed to 5 instead of just instead of disabling or putting it to where the character's always running. That's a much better movement speed. And if you want to, there is a way to make it so that we can like have dashing where it uses like a stamina bar. So you go extra fast. But I think this right here is a good speed to like always move at personally. And now I think it's a good time to go into just making the game look a bit less RPG makery using camera effects. So we're gonna use next the plugins. Galf Camera Control MZ and Screen Zoom. Oh, you couldn't see like the screen, the game window? Great, I wonder how long that's been an issue. Let's try this again. There, that should be fixed now. So here you can see the screen is zoomed in, and it also has like a follow effect where the camera is a little bit slow. And it's like catching up kind of. But it gives a smoothness to it, so it doesn't feel as RPG Maker-like. And the same box dimensions apply to keep the camera from stopping. And then next, this is definitely not necessary, but it's definitely nice to have. And I think the majority of people will want to have dot move system, this plugin here, or a way to get something similar to that. This is a pretty good plugin that doesn't require it doesn't require trying hitboxes or anything. It's pretty simple to use, and it works pretty good. And this lets you, of course, move a lot more freely. Much nicer movement instead of moving tile by tile. Gridlocked. So earlier I mentioned about how the default engine doesn't let you get a custom amount of experience points, like where it depends on the player's level. You can set the experience you get from an enemy, but it's an unchanging number. You can't like add math to it. But with this event, we can add events at the end of the battle. And if we go into the plugin's parameters, we can set if a player wins, it'll have the common events. You can set a common event to run at the end of a battle. I had that set to common event 8, which is here. Victory common events. And this common event says, if True-born and of course this is being run after the game, the battle is won. So it's basically, if the battle is won for Troop-born, this stuff in here happens. Now I have this variable 18 named exp equals 30. I have it set to subtract level of Maggie, then divide by 2. And this is actually how Paper Mario's leveling or experience system works. And then you get 5 gold. So I have a text box after that that says gamed, and then this backslash v brackets 18. That means variable 18 shows. And then found variable 19 coins or gold or whatever. So if you gain, let's say 15 experience points, it'll say gained 15 experience points, or XP, found 5 gold, found 5 coins or gold or whatever. And then here, change experience, entire party plus EXP, and show level up means it'll add that number of experience points to the party and add the gold to the party. And of course, we want enemies, the enemy here, to have the reward set to 0 experience points and 0 gold, and the general settings, because we already have that set up on our own, customized in here. Now let's go to the battle again and show what happens with that setup. Assuming I can win. And yes, action commands do add a lot to the combats. Unfortunately, the majority of people think it's impossible to add action commands without, like, a $50 plugin. So here you see it says it runs the common events that we set up. Gained 14 experience and found 5 coins or gold or whatever. So now we don't have to worry about the issue of players grinding low-level enemies to get the same amount of experience points if they always only need 100 more points. And I do have a guideline here on levels and how they relate to how much experience they give, enemies give and stuff. So considering the stats that we have, I have this note here for enemy level estimation. Along with the ideal player level for what level the player should be at, depending on the enemy's level. Then a guideline for enemy scaling. So right now, since we're testing, we have like really basic stats. But as you know, we get out of testing phase, we can have the player we can consider what damage, what kind of damage and kind of defense and kind of health the player might have at different levels, at different points in the game. So as he gets those points, we scale up enemies that are meant to be in those higher levels, those more difficult areas. So that way we don't have the issue where say for example the player gets stronger, and then you lose track of how much relative damage and how much relative advantage the player has over an enemy. So you have the possibility, or some games might have enemies that get easier as you get further into the game, instead of getting harder. But in a relative sense, in relation to the player's level. Doing it this way kind of definitely helps prevent that kind of issue. But and it's not perfect either. You want to adjust things as you go along. And then last, I have the experience points that I already showed in common events, which is enemy level minus player level divided by 2 is the amount of experience that you want to get. Assuming you level up like at a consistent rate, where it's like you always need 100 experience points to level up. And if that isn't the case, then you just do the more simple version of that. That's even if you don't want to like do it that way exactly, which is fine. You still want to take all of that into consideration. So next, let's get rid of the pause menu. We'll change menu access to disabled. We'll put it as the first thing. So now the player can't access the pause menu. And next, we'll turn on this plugin, which the one named CRK Disable Event Start. And it has options for how events are frozen. This lets you freeze everything going on the map, along with even events processing. So let's add like a cat here. And they're gonna move around randomly. But I will have this this pause common events. These 2 pause common events, where if you press the cancel button, which that's basically the pause menu, the default pause button menu on RPG Maker. If you press that and release unpause is on. If stop events is off, it plays a sound effect, which sounds like that. And stop events turns on. And if release unpause is turned off while the cancel button is being pressed, release unpause turns on. So the purpose of that is because it's constantly checking if the button is being pressed, the cancel button. And you don't want to end up having to pause and return back on like instantly. Because you're probably... Even if you press it, you're gonna be holding it for probably more than one frame. Normally. So you want it to wait for when you release the button. So it's not gonna have this event running, the contents of this running constantly. And it's gonna be to where you have to release the button in order for it to be able to access this again. Now stop events, when it turns on, it lets this common event run, which is set to auto run when switch stop events is turned on. So one interesting thing about auto run is that it also stops the player. So this plugin dimension does not stop the player. It only has the ability to stop every event on the map and all the processes that are not the player. Now auto run will cause the player to also stop. So if the same kind of thing here. If cancel is being pressed, if release pause is on, then all of these switches turn off. And we have a filter as well. Let me go to that filter and show where it is. Filter Control MZ is the plugin. And that lets you do things like add blur effects. So that filter ID pause, and that erases the filter. Once the if you press the pause button while paused, which unpauses it. And because it's being unpaused, we're turning off the filter, we're erasing it. The filter that blurs the screen, the background. You can ignore this for now, but what this is doing is checking if the right button is pressed to add to a variable, which determines what's selected in the pause menu. What option is selected? Out of 3 right now is what it's set to. So let's go ahead and see how that looks. I pause it, and as you can see, the cat stops exactly where the pause is done. And we also have a nice blur that happens when the game is paused. Now, since we have these variables here, let's also try showing pictures that will take the place of what menu option is shown. So we have 3 variables it can show. If the right button is being pressed while pause is on, 1 is going to be added to its variable, and if it goes over 3, it goes back to 0. So we have 0, 1, 2, and okay, actually there's 4 options, or 4 choices it can be. So let's make it show a picture, depending on what number that variable is. And we can pretend the picture that's being shown is a menu option. The cat just pushed me. Okay, I did something wrong. The first actor shows at the top left. It's a lot smaller than I expected it to be at 25%. Plus, he shows up, but the others don't. Let's put this to origin point and center instead. Yeah, it's worse, actually, for some reason. He still shows up, but he's like even further away from the middle of the screen. Okay, forget pictures, let's use a screen tint instead. Oh, duh. I had them all set to pause when he was 0. That's probably why that was not. Well, that's obviously why it wasn't working. Let's go back to showing the pictures. Alright, so if I press right, as you can see, it shows the picture, a Trump picture. And this represents, so you can of course change what the picture is to actually like say things like a actual pause menu option. And of course, from there we can have it open up pause menu options like the event screen or options or you know, whatever else, player status. Or you can just have all of that here. You can have all that kind of stuff show even more easily with SRD Ultra Base and SRD How to Make Your Ultra. Now this, you actually have to use a different, it comes with its own software that's separate from RPG Maker. But it saves to your RPG Maker file, and it lets you design HUDs and image-based stuff that you add into the RPG Maker game engine. Yeah, so you can have any menu, any type of menu that you can imagine, pretty much any type of HUD with that. And along with that, you can also customize the how battles look and how the display in battles looks. I don't really want to go into that today though, because that's its own. There's a lot to go into on that, and it'll take a while to actually do it. But I will say, the default battle menu has a lot to be desired left and looks horrible. I really hate how it kind of like, it's only made with 4 party members in mind at all times. So Along with that, I have battle window positions, a plugin that you're gonna need if you want to customize the battle menu with the SRD Ultra Base and HUD Maker, because SRD HUD Maker Ultra, although it lets you add images and lets you add HUD stuff, it doesn't let you delete what already exists. Which is why we had to go through the whole making a custom pause where you can customize the pause screen. So you can't get rid of stuff. You can get rid of the battle window positions, at least with this. So let's look at what it looks like when we turn on battle window positions. This is, but just to remind you, the default settings right now. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna have... Alright, so I do have this set to off screen right now, where the battle status window and the actor command windows are off screen right now. I think it's by about 700, so let me just fix that for a moment to what it would be by default. Oh, you know what? No. I'll just close and reopen it. Well, delete it. Battle window positions deleted. Under custom EXP functions. And I'll paste it back over there, so we can look at what it looks like by default. There, so the default setting is the exact same as the normal setting, but without the plugin. But this lets us reposition it, which is the whole point. And it also lets us resize the windows. However, unfortunately, resizing the battle status window doesn't actually do anything useful because... Well, let me just show you what it does if we do that. If we change the width. So although we can change the sizes, the battle status window does not, it's not enough to just change the size of it. So as you can see, it kind of like pushes everything that's inside it to the left. So if we're gonna have a custom menu with SRD's HUD Maker Ultra, what you have to end up doing ultimately is just hiding the default windows. And I just do that by adding 700 to the Y position of them, of the battle status window and the actor command window. And that's for good measure. That's more than you need to for it to be off screen. But you do need it to exist. Because if it doesn't exist at all, if you delete the menus, then it of course just won't. You won't be able to progress in the battle. And all the custom stuff has to kind of rely on the hidden windows for reference. So as you can see, I made that other one disappear by just putting it off screen. And here's the attack box, which you'd have to work on the size and making it the dimensions that you'd want it to be. Now let's put the party command window off screen too, because that's the other window that we don't want. So now there's nothing here. And that's a good thing if you want to replace the battle HUD entirely. So the next step here is using SRD Ultra Base and Maker Ultra. This is pretty much warm plugin because we're really just using SRD Maker Ultra. And it just needs SRD Ultra Base to run because it's like a 2-part code. So you can see the description literally says contains code required for HUD Maker Ultra, does not affect, etc. whatever. You just need to have both of them on in order for this to work. So from here, I'm gonna take a small break, and also I'll try to fix things up a little bit in the Maker Ultra engine separately. Okay, I'm back. So next, I'm just getting the image ready for how to make her. For in battle. And I'm saving this in the project image pictures area. Since that's where How to Make Your Ultra is going to look for images to use for this. This is what How to Make Your Ultra looks like. It's not the best circle, but it'll do. So in How to Make Your Ultra, if you want to also have text like this that shows depending on what option you have selected. There are a number of script script calls you have to know how to do. But that's again the same. I'm not gonna really go into it right now. So let's go back to RPG Maker. And now we have the custom pause and HUD information stuff added to the game. So as you see, when I pause it, I can go ahead and have a number of different things to select if I wanted to. Let's get rid of the pictures actually, since we don't need those anymore for reference. Now let's go ahead and go into the battle. And as you can see, we have a nice customized HUD, or a player of like the information that shows HP, MP, and TP. And we can see what we're doing now too. This doesn't look great, but it's an example and needs a bit of work still. You can also, of course, like, I didn't mention I was putting that, but also you can have the enemy's health shown too. And you can have it set to a conditional switch where it only shows after you. Like if you want a tattle kind of thing, you can have it set to after you have a switch turned on. That turns on when using a tattle kind of skill, for example. if you want to. Right now, guard and TP aren't doing anything, but I think a good idea to have for guarding is to have a custom guard that uses maybe like 50 TP or something, and you only get TP after like throughout the battle, so you can't just use it whenever. But when you use this, my own idea of what a custom guard would be, a good guard ability would be, is having the guard last for 2 turns and probably doing 50% damage. Or having you take 50% damage. That's just an idea of making it to where like you actually have to think about when to use it and stuff. And making it not like a completely useless skip turn ability like most games make guarding. So now we have the custom, a lot of stuff custom. Definitely doesn't look all default RPG makery. Next, while I don't know which time I have left. Let's see. Let's go ahead and make the sprites not look like midgets. I know this is more of a Photoshop Clip Studio Paint section here. But it's good to keep in mind. So what I'm gonna do here is multiply the height of the image or the image resolution and change image resolution by 1.5. That makes it 576 for the heights. Or hold on. Oh, canvas size instead. let's do this first. Yes, I left an extra pixel of space on the right side on accidents. Okay, now let's change the canvas size. I think we should multiply the height by 1.25 instead of 1.5. And I'll make these reference points. So that way the character stays in their correct relative grid position. I keep losing it. I need to actually pay more attention towards that. Just cut and paste this again, so I get rid of all the off-screen stuff, the left and right sides. Set interpolation method to hard edges. Our nearest neighbor. You know what, Crab? Let's make dots here too for this. Let's stretch this again now. Make sure the dot is at the bottom right and bottom left corner of this background square to be grid aligned. And we also should duplicate it to have a reference of the original size. Let's have it set to clear edges bicubic for interpolate. Wait. Let's go with hard edges still. Nearest neighbor looks better. For a game. For this especially. Now the next part of this is beheading them. We gotta get their heads off. And we're almost out of time, so I'll just show you what it looks like with one of their heads taken off. And we'll duplicate that layer to have a backup of it in case anything goes too wrong. So it looks a bit more normal as opposed to the stretched head. If you get the original heads and put them on stretched bodies. Now we'll continue tomorrow onto the actual RPG Maker game making stuff. For now, I'm going to go ahead and pass the torch to Zindictive. And that concludes today. See ya.